4 car mods I regret doing late. You can also view this title as 4 car mods you should do first, because I would definitely recommend that to my past self. The first car mod I'm going to talk about is lowering suspension, be it coilovers, springs, lowering bolts. I made a whole video about how you can lower your car. Lowering your suspension absolutely changes how your car looks, and that is true of everything. Like, I always wondered what was missing, because I can't believe I went through all those cosmetic mods on my Z06 in the past and never once thought to lower it, with the dumb excuse of, oh, well, then I lose ground clearance. Well, cool, you could just fix that with, there's other ways to fix ground clearance. We'll talk about it later this video. But so the first thing I did when I repaired my Mustang, so obviously I had a shop fix its frame damage and I had them replace its door, and then finally when I got it back to me, I ended up fixing its bumpers and fenders and whatever, who cares, alright? The point is, the very first actual mod that I did to her, not counting the repairs, when I got it back, was I lowered it. I was just like, Callie, this is overdue. I'm so sorry I never lowered you in the entire time that I owned you, because it completely changes the way the car looks. I would always park next to other Mustangs in the past and never know why they look more muscular and aggressive. It's because they were lower than me. No amount of freaking louvers and spoilers and diffusers and quarter louvers and vortex generators and angry wraps fixes the fact that if your car has stock fitment, it just looks so weird. But the moment you lower it, all those mods that you put on it actually pop more, because now it looks like your car is so aggressive and muscular and menacing and very ominous, like it's chasing its opponents, it's stalking its prey. It also just rides so much better. So for the love of God, please lower your cars. Fitment Industries was not kidding when they said it is better to lower a car on stock wheels than to have aftermarket wheels and stock suspension. PPF and ceramic coating. I once thought paint protection film and ceramic coating were meant for people super obsessed with perfection, which sure, you could argue that, but shockingly, it's actually also great for people who absolutely don't enjoy detailing cars or don't have the time to do it and are just super lazy like myself, because I honestly just enjoy driving my car and it ends up getting dirty all the time, and I always get told because of how nice it is that I should keep it cleaner. When I had Lucina on, I actually decided to both do PPF and ceramic coat over her because the guy who wrapped my car, Flavio at Top Car Wraps, offered to do both of them anyways. So, and I got spoiled owning them. I realized that I didn't really have to clean my car, like ever. In fact, you just let it sit in the sunlight and it actually heals the PPF. And anytime it rains, your car actually becomes cleaner than when it started the drive. Of course, occasionally you would use some mild automotive soap and some water and just rinse it off. But really, I only did that like once every few months. It was the best invention ever for someone as lazy as myself, but still wanted to keep a car relatively nice looking, which brings us right into today's sponsor, Avalon King. So if you've never heard of ceramic coating, basically it's like wax on steroids. It gives your car a glass-like shine and it's extremely hydrophobic, which means that it's really easy to clean and maintain, since most water, grime, and dirt will actually just slide right off. This is very good for protecting your car against the elements and really all sorts of weather, and it lasts for about 2 to 5 years, and Avalon King actually guarantees the first 2 years. It's also extremely easy to apply. It's specifically designed for people like us car enthusiasts to learn and just follow the instructions provided, and anyone can pick it up. However, you can also take it to professional to apply as well. And another thing about ceramic coating that people don't really know is that it can be used to cover basically anything on your car. It's not just for protecting its paint. If you have windows, you can also make it where rain slides off your windows during rainy days. You can also put it on your lights. You can also put it on plastics, on chrome, and so on and so forth. And basically the way it works is it utilizes nanotechnology to seal all surface pores and cures to a hardened glossy shield. Again, wax on steroids. And what that means is you now have a barrier layer that protects your car against most grime, debris, and dirt. But I will give a nice added note that you guys should know is that before you ceramic coat a car, you do want to do any paint correction or anything and do a general detail before you apply it. The best part is that this kit isn't as expensive as you think. It contains everything you need to achieve a professional level finish that usually would cost $1,000, but in this case would be saving you hundreds to do it on your own. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested, the link will be provided below. Thank you very much, Avalon King. Back to this video. This is part of the reason why I think ceramic coating does fit with the theme of this video, because if you do it earlier, it's better. When your paint is still new, when it's still early in its lifespan, when it doesn't need to get paint corrected and blah 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 blah, this is the perfect time to put ceramic coating on it and protect it for the future, since it applies a lot easier to paint that is newer anyway. So this is definitely something I regret not doing sooner rather than later. The next mod on this list are better tires and wheels. So similarly to lowering suspension, this is also something I recommend people people do either as their first or second mod, because it's usually done in unison with lowering a car. So wheels are probably one of the most important modifications for your car that everyone gets wrong. Offset, flush, poke, tug. I made a whole video talking about the terms for fitment. There's also a whole video I made talking about wheels and their constructions and their strength. Spacers obviously can fix wheels that tuck in too much, but they don't fix wheels that poke out too much. So offset more than anything is gonna matter, and you have to know what you're aiming for. Oh, it's so hard, but I still recommend you do it early. I recommend you suffer through learning about all the different wheel brands. I recommend you suffer through learning what offset your car needs, where it's at currently with stock, and where you need to go to flush it out properly. Because when you do get wheels that sit right, more than anything, it's not just about the color, it's not just about the spoke design, it really is about how they sit. Because I personally am not a big wheel fan, but then I realized it's not the wheel itself that mattered to me, it was still the overall stance of the vehicle. Because if I had wheels that tucked in too much, they looked hideous, whether they had a good spoke design or whether they had a bad one, because I learned that I generally don't like tucks still. So I figured out I should still learn about wheels so I can not only flush it out, but understand what offset is needed to accomplish that. So I do recommend that you learn about wheels, and I attached tires into this entry for another reason, because yeah, it's the 2-in-1, they go together. Usually when you change wheels, you may as well change tires as well, because usually when you upsize or downsize wheels, you end up upsizing or downsizing your tires. And I don't just recommend upsizing your tire width, the tire sidewall also matters a lot. For my Corvette, I ended up upsizing the tire sidewall, which brings me back to what I wanted to talk about at the start of the video. The main point of lowering your car, and the main point of stance, the main point of fitment culture, I should say, is about reducing wheel gap. And some people care about reducing ground gap, or ground clearance as they call it. If you lower your car, obviously that means you lower your ground clearance, which means sure, you have cooler looking fitment, but now you scrape everywhere. But this brings me to a favorite part of this video. If you upsize your wheels or upsize your tires, you can also get more ground clearance and reduce your wheel gap at the same time. The final modification I'd like to talk about in this video is one that, again, is probably more specific to my case, but I would recommend it for any car that comes boosted as well. So it's cooling. So whether it's cold air intake, whether it's intercooler, whether it's reservoirs, and whether it's even just changing your coolant or adding new radiators, especially if you have boost, cooling matters a lot. If you plan to do boost, cooling also matters a lot. So a new intercooler can go a long way, as well as new line setups and new reservoirs. They can all help with heat soak. This is something I really regret not getting to sooner for my Corvette Z06, because the Z06s for 2015 were known to overheat from factory. In 2017 onwards, they made a slightly taller intercooler on them that barely changes their heat soak issues. It just delays the inevitable, as I would refer to it as. It just delays the point at which the Corvette starts to heat soak, but it still ultimately heat soaks. So I ended up just getting an aftermarket intercooler, and that literally solved practically everything. And I just kind of thought to, well, I also got an aftermarket cold air intake and an aftermarket radiator as well. I thought about getting an aftermarket, like a bigger reservoir tank. Now the problem with that I will talk about briefly is that does add a lot of weight to your car, because liquids weigh a lot more than you think. So I wanted to change where it was heat soaking mostly, which is the supercharger. So I decided, all right, let's get a taller intercooler, give it more space above the supercharger. If that fixes my problem, I don't need to resort to getting a bigger reservoir, because again, that's adding unnecessary weight. With the 3 modifications I ended up doing, basically new radiator fan, new cold air intake, and new intercooler, I now actually have problems warming up my car in time during winter, because it actually runs that cool now. And that's the greatest thing ever, to finally defeat the Z06's overheating issues. And more importantly, here's the way I see it. So you could mod a Z06, or really any car, to have more boost, more power, blah blah blah, but what's the point of having a car that has like 700, 900, even 1,000 horsepower if it only has that power for the first 3 or so runs? Especially people who are really into drag racing, or people who are really into track racing, or even just mountain running like I am. When you have heat soak, you have a lot of power loss, and it's very parasitic. It really bites you almost immediately, where you will push the pedal and you feel like 60 horsepower is gone, and then you push it again. Even in between letting your car sit, you realize that your car now feels like it's almost not even boosted, because all of it's just that hot. What's the point of having 900 horsepower if I only have it for like 3 pulls on the highway, aka like maybe 10 minutes, when I could have 756 horsepower like I do now, but have that consistently throughout the whole entire time I'm driving? And that to me is why people should aspire to build cooling, especially for boosted setups. You can make a dyno queen that has super impressive numbers like 1200 horsepower, but if it just loses all that power like down after every few or so runs to the point it's heat soaking so badly where the car either enters limp mode or hurts itself, or even worse, significantly slower. It just defeats the whole point of having all that boost to begin with. Anyways, that's my form of advice for this video. I hope it helps some of you guys decide on what modifications you should do to your car. And if you have some things that you regret doing late for your car, comment it down below. I'd love to read it. I'd love to hear about it, because I know I'm not the only one who has regrets, and we each as different car enthusiasts have different types of regrets when doing our builds, because hindsight is 20/20. We didn't know what we wanted to do when we first set out to do it, unless we planned better, but no one is perfect. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like it, and if you like cars and automotive content, make sure to subscribe. Other than that though, see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.